Hey there, Squirrel Army, how's it going? For today, we're doing another Murders at Karloff Manor Precon upgrade. This is for Revenant Recon.
You can join the Squirrel Army by subscribing.
Alrighty, so Revenant Recon, that's the Demir deck, and yeah, we'll be upgrading this deck here and having a look at the commander. We'll just go through a quick review of the cards and have a look at what we kind of need and that kind of thing first. Alright, so I've already discussed this commander, the face commander, in another video, so I should just be putting a little pop-up over to the top of my head here somewhere for you guys to go and check it out if you want to see a more in-depth breakdown of what this commander does and what this deck is kind of all about. But I'm not going to spend any time in this video really discussing what it does because I've already done so don't want to take up more time in this video in discussing it. Alright, so I'm going to have a bit of a look at this deck list and figure out what we need in this deck. You guys, as always, can find these deck lists pretty easily if you wish to by just Google searching them up. Obviously, this isn't the best way to view them, and I guess I don't know whether this is the best way to view it, but it just is so much more easy, for me at least, to sort of see kind of what's going on and where things are at, because it does sort of filter things out into the columns a lot of the time itself, so it really helps. Like some of the new cards it doesn't, but like that's pretty easy to rectify and like just go through it yourself. But at any rate, I will go through this list and kind of read through what the deck kind of, I think, needs, and then get back to, showing you what I think you should cut and showing you what, I think you should maybe add. Well, I've finished the list. So, yeah, you guys can have a look at the list that I've came up with. If you're not super duper interested in hearing me talk about the list that I've come up with and whatnot, you can see the deck list down there in the comments below and check that out and do what you will with it and go on from there. Move on with your lives. But for those people that are here to see what I've done with it, what's in, what's out, what and whatever, definitely we'll get through it as quickly as possible. I'm not going to talk about lands. I didn't change anything, but guys know the drill. Cut the bad tap lands and add whatever you have, even if it's just basics, you'll be better off. Connive, Conduct, the other spell, the split spells in here, the other one, I can't remember its name, but it's a cheap cantrip on one side, and it does a whole lot of stealing stuff from opponents or making opponents bounce their stuff and discard cards and etc. That's pretty good. This one isn't so good, so I just cut it. Grave Titan, I think it's a pretty good card in some decks, unlike some people. Not in this deck, perhaps. So, yeah, it has to go. Mole Drifter, just pretty inefficient. We've got a couple other of these sort of just draw cards like Baleful Streaks, and even that I considered cutting. So, we just don't need it. We've got other draw effects, and we've got better draw effects, so we just don't need it. Phyrexian Arena, same sort of thing, but Phyrexian Arena is just not very good. You've got the new Phyrexian Arena, which just does way better. So I wouldn't ever play this. These notes I don't like. They don't do enough. The Phantasm can get really big, but like it has no evasion, so we're not interested. Alright, what I thought I would add, Eloise. When another creature we control dies, we investigate. That might happen. Maybe. I don't know how much that's going to happen. But when we sacrifice a token, we surveil one. So, yeah, we can do that too. That seems like we could do a whole bunch if we get it. Like Gary. Gary's really good. Doesn't really need a whole lot built around it to be really good. Just drains our opponent's lives. The Stolen Sight Menacer isn't too bad. So it could get in there for combat or whatever. But when one or more artifacts or creatures are put into our graveyard from the battlefield, we surveil one. So again, don't know how much we're going to do it, but could happen. Sheldred just makes our opponent's life sad, makes our lives pretty good. So it's just an all-round good card to kind of have, because we want to get our stuff back and punch our opponents with it and take their lives. Sinister Sabotage, I don't know why it wasn't in the deck. It's like not like the best counter spell in the world ever or anything. It's not even that amazing, but still, like, we want to surveil, so just having that on the spell is just like that little bit of extra gravy that we kind of want in a deck like this. So you're already kind of taking a whole bunch of like spells that aren't that amazing. Even like what's his name? Shriekmaw and Chupacabra, and that the Shriekmaw can be good because it can be like 2 mana, but still, yeah, you got a few of those things that aren't that amazing. But we're kind of relying on creatures as well for a sense because, well, you know, we want bodies. So, Grim Captain's Lock. I don't know how many people remember that this card exists. It just recently came out in the Ixalan Commander set. There's that Starfish that does Surveil 1, similar to this, that's like 2 mana. But this does way more by letting us bring back our creatures for an escape cost, which is pretty good. Because again, we need to bring our stuff back when we surveil it into the graveyard somehow. And, you know, if we have to exile a few cards that aren't really that relevant, like if we get back our Sheldred or something, then it's probably worth, you know, exiling a few other cards that are not really that interesting or just lands or whatever. One thing I will say about this list is it does need more mana rocks. I do think you often want at least 10 at minimum. If you play it and find that this is enough mana rocks, you can keep it as is, but I would cut something like Baleful Strix or Brainstorm or just some of those other spells that are in here that don't really do a whole lot, like surveilling and that sort of stuff, to add up to the synergy and whatnot. So, yeah, and help you ramp out when you really need it. You probably need like 3 at least, I would say. So there is that, but you know, like it's pretty good where it's at. I think for the most part as a deck, like you could even just take out Chupacabra as one of the other ones, I guess, or whatever. But still, beyond that, I think the list is pretty darn decent. But those were like the key things that I sort of saw when I looked through this deck and thought, you know, what's going to trip you up or what's going to kind of not really do a whole lot. Like, Muldrifter can do stuff like Gravetide. Any of these cards can do stuff. But, like, when you've just, like, got other things and got other better options, it's just like, well, or more synergistic options, it's like, well, I'll take those over these any day just because they actually work with what kind of trying to do in some ways, even if it's not a huge amount of the time that, like, Eloise or whatever is going to trigger. Like, it'll trigger sometimes, even if there's a board wipe. We'll get a few triggers off of it, and maybe we won't get the surveils, but we'll get to draw some cards or whatever. So it'll be somewhat worth it, and we'll get, you know, sort of get back in the game after a board wipe to draw a whole bunch of cards or whatever fairly quickly. So that'll be all right. But anyway, that is the list. You guys can let me know what you thought of this list. Write your thoughts down there in the comments below. Hope you've enjoyed it one way or the other, and hope you'll join me again in another one.